What is up, Workbringer here, and today I'm bringing you a Mists of Tirna Scithe plus 13. Now, I actually, right before this, barely missed a 14. We died, I think, twice. Kind of unfortunate pride timings in the maze, and the trash on a 14 fortified, they smack. So if you're a little off with the pride timing and not everyone has cooldowns to survive it, it does get spicy, so... this is a 13 fortified, pretty straightforward, immediately quaking. It's always a little bit sketch in the beginning. And this first pack, I just face tank, and typically as long as I don't, as long as this pack is melting, more or less, I don't really have to pop any defensives for it because it's the next pack that usually is my life. It ends my life. It's always the next pack. And what I will say for tanks, I mean, this is getting spicy. It got there. Someone died. It's fine. I think when they die, they leave a debuff on you like that. It looks like a mindbender up there. I have 2 stacks of it. It's not usually too bad for me. Standing in Sanguine will kill me in the quaking. And I do need to get out of here, so I take that damage there. And obviously the warrior's not back. And the mistake is to continue to push into the next pack unprepared, half-cocked, okay? What I'm going to do is stabilize, Repentance, the Soul Cleaver, because that's the one that kills me. I'm going to Judge pull, and then I'm going to Silence pull that one. And we're going to do this pack right here with that Soul Cleaver in the back. I am focusing the Soul Cleaver, because if I can live this, everyone else shouldn't die, right? But if I die, it gets sketch. It's a really fast run back. However, the run back does always risk pulling the pack that we skipped. It is generally bad. And so you'll see one Soul Cleaver doing Soul Split, not so bad, he's down. The other Soul Cleaver, which is, again, if you're a tank, you should know this at this point, that those Soul Cleavers both hitting you is what's killing you, on Fortified especially. So if you are a Protection Paladin, I very much suggest Repentance. So I'm considering pulling this one in, but we've unfortunately sanguined the big boy, and he's back at 100 health, so unfortunate. But for time, because of that sanguine, I'll bring it back in. However, if it wasn't sanguine, he wouldn't be back at full health, and he would have basically been dead. The way that I've done these before, the big tree would have been dead, and we could have solo killed the Soul Cleaver. So yes, that is slower, technically, right? And some DPS may not be with that. They're like, I want to cleave all 4 together. That's the DPS perspective. However, as the tank and the healer should understand what this second pull is. I mean, how many healers have lost tanks to this second pull when it goes squirrely, right? I've died so many times to it with Divine Shield, with Guardians. I'll still die with that Soul Cleaver pack if it goes a little sideways. So that Repentance pull, you could probably also Ice Trap it, a whole bunch of other things. However, I don't really want to rely on other people for that. That is my call. Because if we confidently live with no... Oh, we have 1 death, but we're going to sap this here. Lovely. And again, I'm going to Repentance the other Soul Cleaver. So now this is a single Soul Cleaver pack. Only 1. Right? So it's not full uptime, right? Again, it's not full 4 cleave, so it's technically a loss in DPS. However, you lose 5 seconds when someone dies, plus I'd have to run back. And I don't really want to have to burn Divine Shield, though I suppose I could. It's very common to burn Divine Shield actually on the second pack for me. Just to basically prevent Soul Split the first round. I can prevent it. But on Fortified, at this gear level, which is like these people, this is pretty, decently geared, pretty high IO. On Fortified, at these high gears, that pack still lives for a little bit. So it's still very, very likely that I'm going to get another round of double Soul Split. And if healer or whatever, I haven't healed this place yet at a high key, or really at all. I'm going to do Holy Paladin soon. It's if I'm not immediately helped out or have a Word of Glory off cooldown, I just get deleted after. It's like, oh, 2 soul splits? Oh, I'm dead. And that's what it looks like. It's like super common. So I had been doing a lot of research on my different CCs, and I had never even heard of Repentance. I was like, what is this thing? But you'll see as on my higher runs now, my mid to high keys, whatever you want to call, 13, 14, 15. I think that's mid keys. I don't know. You'll see that I use Repentance a lot to control pride timings, to control dangerous packs, and to just to be stable, to be consistent, and not rely on party CC, not rely on trees, for instance. Like if the Balanced Druid had trees, those pulls are made trivial. If we want to burn, you know, Rock Elemental from the Shaman on that pack, I don't mind it. There's really not a lot of other packs in here that are that dangerous, except for the maze where it goes sideways. Like basically, if you like have like I think you can get 60% in the maze sometimes. It's kind of rare. But say you kill a pack and you're solving the puzzle and you have like 59 count, and then you run in and it's like an 8 pack of mobs or something like that. I forget what the max is. Sometimes it's a big pack and you're like, well, when the first mob dies here, we're gonna get pride in the middle of it. It's impossible to cleave those packs all the way down. There are some like priority kills, like the Guardians and the Moth and some stuff like that. And there's all these heals that are going out with the tenders if you get those big packs. So it's like, okay, we're getting pride in the middle. That's when the elemental comes out. In my opinion, my call is that you would try to burn down like 3 or 4 together if possible. Pride comes out, maybe there's like 3 or 4 left, depending. Then you pop the elemental, and hopefully the elemental takes the trash while I take pride. Something like that. Like that's usually what trees and the elemental rock thing is for. I think the cooldown on trees is actually a lot less, but the trees die pretty quickly depending on what's hitting them. Whereas the elemental, the rock elemental stays there for like a full minute, and like I've never seen it die. It's just always there. Maybe it can't die, whereas trees have like hit pools or health pools. So that's the variation from my other routes. It doesn't trivialize the pulls to me, but it gives me control over them. And like I said, I did a 14, same thing. Doesn't look any different. DPS just needs to burn a little harder. And I haven't pulled a 15 yet. I would do this place on... as of recording this, you'll be seeing this like much later, because I queue up my videos for one a day, and I do a lot of videos, so they kind of get delayed out there. Some people want to see them like live that week. That's just not how this is going for me. Maybe eventually, the thing is, if I take a break from making videos, then they'll be real time, because I'll have made it that day, and then I'll have no backlog. But the thing is, I think the route's what's most important when you're looking at this, because I'll even go back and watch my videos. If I'm going to go do a key I haven't done for a while, I go watch my video. I don't go watch other people's video, because I watch me do it. I was like, oh, how did I do it last time? What went wrong? What's the oh yeah moment of it? And pretty soon, we're going to have gone through all of the affixes, and they get kind of like randomized. So you're going to have to learn this dungeon as a tank with every affix and every combination of affix as well. And so you need to be able to think on the fly about what that means. Sorry. Versus being like, oh, how do I exactly do this week? There's that, but you kind of have to be able to think for yourself as a tank for sure. When you're looking at the comp, looking at the affix, I'm like, what do you call for? And again, the mid key, like this 13, I pug into these usually, and it's a full group, and a lot of the times it's a partial guild. And I immediately come into some of them like Plaguefall, and I'll be like, we need a battle res. Like if there's like one DPS slot missing, I'm like, you're bringing a Balanced Druid, or I'm not going. And not to be a jerk and be like, oh yeah, like listen to me. I'm just like, I want to time it, and I'm just telling you, you need a battle res in Plague. It's just pure suicide to have no battle res. I mean, in general, it's pretty dicey. But for this place, for Mists, for example, it's like, I need a rogue or a priest. And if there's no rogue or priest in the group, I'll just be like, hey, sorry, the route I have doesn't work with this comp, and I leave really quickly. And so when they're not like, trying to summon me or waste any more time for them, I'm just like, I think there's a week where I think to see the group comp. But my point is that you need to be able to think about the affixes on your own, because it affects comp, and it affects a bunch of things. So it's also just an excuse that you're not going to probably see a lot of my stuff like the week that it goes out, until I start doing like more live streaming or something like that. But, you know, if it's for tanks that are trying to learn, it's like you really can't copy. I wouldn't say. I think because everything is different, comp changes route sometimes. You know, it depends. Body pulls changes route. So what's important is to like overall understand how affixes affect the dungeon and what packs. But you have to be able to think for yourself. So I'll still watch. You know, I mean, most of the stuff I watch isn't like from that week. But I'll still pick up. I was like, oh, I didn't know you could LOS that. Or I didn't know this class could do that. I didn't know that warriors have a slow. A mass slow. I didn't know that. Maybe it's only arms. I don't know. I think it was it this group? I think this group goes on to do Theater of Pain 14. So spoiler alert, we time this. We go do a 14. And I might make a video on it. Because it was one of my first 14s. And I died a Gore Chop. Because Gore Chop on a 14 bangs. And basically... there's not much to say about the trash here, so I'm talking about my other runs that we do with this group after, but, you know, Gore Chop, on a 14 fortified, so not even tyrannical, on tyrannical get out, if you take that, like, that big chop that he does, without like, mitigation, it one-shots you. And the other thing is that the green pools from the slimes, also on a 14, pretty much one-shot you. So what happened is I don't even understand how the spell works. The circle that Gore Chop does, where he chains you and pulls you in, half the time it doesn't do anything. Is it when you stand in his circle? Anyway, we're like deep into the fight, and we didn't Omega melt him, even though we get pride for it. So we were in that fight for a while on a fortified. So about easily half the room is full of those green circles from the ads. So it's kind of like in a rage timer, and that the room is getting like very full. And so I'm dodging the Iron Curtain chains, and to dodge the chains and not stand in any of the green pools, I end up in that guy's Gore Chop's circle, and he chains me directly into a green pool, and it one-shots me. And we wipe from it, and we were like probably the last like quarter of health on the boss, so that feels really bad. Oh no, it must not have been this comp, because there was no battle res, and also what else? Yeah, there's no battle res, and that ended the run. We came back, and even without pride, we killed them. We moved on to the next bosses, and we killed Modretha, but we didn't time, so we took pride for Modretha. It was questionable if we had the DPS to do it, but most definitely the end running thing was I died in Gore Chop. And, you know, it's my fault. Likely I'll have to watch it back and see, like, was this avoidable, or was it like, no, the whole room was basically like hardened, or like, you know, soft enraged. Kind of like in Spires of Ascension on the boss that shoots the black arrows. It's like, oh, you could have like quote unquote missed, you know, getting hit by those arrows. It's like, not if there's 8 of them in its recharge phase. It's called a soft enrage. The mechanics become almost impossible, right? Even if you're like, that's like all you did for like a year was dodge those arrows, it's like you're still probably gonna get one. And at the higher keys in Spires, that kills you. Higher keys of Theater of Pain, the 14, Tyrannical, I can't even imagine, but even on Fortified, Gore Chop destroys you. And I think a lot of people lost him. I think we lost and Pride Gore Chop down, because like, as the room fills up, it gets bad. Anyway, so I died. It makes me want to battle res at all times. Perhaps that's a weakness, but it's a nice thing to have. But the other thing is that for these hierarchies, I actually had taken a break from doing them. I know I'm not commenting on this run, but I think we've all seen this at this point. We're going to kill the trash, we randomly get pride, and we do the puzzle. Right? This looks the same thing if you're doing it on normal or heroic. It's the same battle. It's just the trash hits a lot harder, and I think I might die once or something. This is a bad pack. Now, luckily, we're at 51%. If we were at 58%, I would be like, we're gonna die here. But, you know, we can slay it like 3 of these before pride will come out, I think. But what I was saying is that as a tank getting... Oh, why am I dying? As I'm getting into the hierarchies, like, so right now, I feel fairly confident to queue into any 14. And my IO, I basically get into them, right? I don't have clears of, like, all the 14s yet, but I'm basically right. I basically have 13s of everything. and a couple depleted 14s, which I think Raider IO will show sometimes. So it's like I'm doing them. It's just like, you know, do I execute route perfectly, and is the DPS there in most cases, right? So as I do these 14s, the thing I notice is that basically the mechanics are now borderline one shot if you mess up anything, right? And so if it's a DPS that dies, that's fine. We'll probably still finish the pack, res him after. If the healer dies, I don't have a battle res. I need to get the engineering battle res. It just hasn't worked itself into my meta yet, but it will. And if I die, it's pretty GG for that, unless there's like an instant boomkin battle res, something like that. And even then, it's usually, when I die, it's usually such a bad situation that even if I come back battle res, everyone else has died so quickly, right? There's only certain dungeons that you can kite and like recover from a tank wipe in a bad situation, right? Not like an oops, like in the other side, like if someone let Shadow Core go off and I got one shot by it, it's like, that's an oops. But typically it's like, oh, there's Pride and Quaking and 3 ads and someone missed a kick. If I come back into that, I'm going to be low health. Probably my mitigation's gone. Pride's at a huge stack of pop damage. Healer probably tried to like recover it. And if I res into it, it's still going to be another wipe after, even worse. All this to say that battle res is really good, but it won't save like an extremely bad situation wipe. And I know this from doing the couple 14s I've done. I was like, it doesn't save it. And I just almost don't even take this. I don't even take it at this point. But you know what will save those situations at the higher keys is the cheat death trinket from Sun King Salvation. And that's why I started running the raid. And I believe by the time you see this video, I'll have released the first 7 kills I have from Heroic Castle Nathria. That's the reason I took the time to study the Castle Nathria fights. I now know most of them very well, at least up to Sun Kings. I mean, that's not very far in the raid, luckily. If I get that cheat death trinket, this is my theory, and this is what I would like. I don't know any high-level demon hunter or even monk tanks that don't have that trinket. Because what that does is it gives the tank it gives the tank one chance to die. And there's so many one-shot mechanics at a 15, at a 14, on Fortified or Tyrannical. There's so many one-shot mechanics that you kind of need it, right? Like, no one's perfect, right? There's always variations. Blame who you want, but no one's perfect, and it's very easy to die once at these high keys. And that was very much illustrated to me on a basically flawless execution of Theater of Pain 14 with Quaking, which is a really hard one to do on the platforms, with Sanguine, perfectly managed, perfectly executed. Yeah, I still died to Gore Chop because we went kind of deep into that fight and there was a lot of green and I died to it. With the cheat death, that would have been like an oops, I died, I would have cheated death, I would have probably lay on hands myself, because you can't lay on hands a one shot, right? But if I proc cheat death, and I was at like whatever percent health you come back at, it depends on what your health pool and then what level trinket you get, right? The higher trinkets will return you with more health. Then I would lay on hands, and we probably would have cleared it, unless the same thing happened again because we're in like a soft enrage or something like that. And so that Theater Pain 14 run further confirms that I will be clearing as far as I can into the... I mean, I can 10 out of 10 normal very easily. And I'll be clearing every single week until I get that trinket. At least Heroic Sun Kings, but I'll just clear as much as I can too, because there's some other Sire trinkets I want as well if I can clear Heroic Sire every week. And so I really do believe if you're interested in tanking the high keys, you basically have to finish. You have to be finishing the raid, at least up to Sun Kings at Heroic and Normal. And Mythic, ideally. I don't feel like doing Mythics yet. I could probably do Mythic Shriek with like a very, coordinated group. But yeah, that's pretty much my judgment, is that there's so many one-shots that are happening. And in my opinion, if the tank dies, I almost don't take a battle res, depending on how bad it was. Depending on what's up. If Pride is up, and there's a bunch of ads, and that's where I usually wipe, I am not inclined to take the res. I'm like, it's probably, depending on what's happening, it's probably just a full clean wipe versus me coming back and then wiping again and wasting time attempting it versus just clean killing it. If we're on voice comms and there's some pack, like, this is where we wipe, is Pride plus a huge pack that's not getting interrupted or something like that. Because, again, at the higher keys like this, if you don't kick some of the casters, they one-shot people. You've probably seen that in Theater of Pain. You'll see that in Spires of Ascension. Those casters that are normally like, oh well, that went off. It's one-shots the healer. Or someone. Someone's going to get one-shot. Like a mage gets one-shot by it. Warrior's getting one-shot by, like, magical casts. Happens. If there's a huge group left, and Pride's out, and I have died, and maybe one other person's dead, and the healer's, like, at, like, 10%, and they manage to get a battle res off, it's not going to save it. Battle res is for, like, maybe the healer goes down, but Resto Shamans, I think, have Ankh, so they'll come back. If one of the top melee DPS goes down, sorry, melee DPS, you're the ones that die. As illustrated by this, if the top, DPS, like, Mistweaver Monk or Rogue dies, yeah, go ahead and battle res. I'm gonna get Holy Locked out of the res. Fun. So they're just gonna run back. I mean, they're right behind us. We're not on voice comms. I'm failing right now. I was typing and then tried to move forward, and I just was holding. I spammed W into the chats. But basically, it's becoming my judgment that battle res is for DPS and maybe the healer. But if I die and the group's like mid-pride, mid-pack, and people are low, which they're going to be, like if I'm dying, other people are low too, meaning the healer didn't know who to go for. It's me, by the way. You always save the tank because I can live for a very long time with just a healer. A very, very long time, even with Pride. I don't accept the battle res. And if I was on voice comms, I would say clean wipe it, let's keep going. Right? Clean wipe is about 25 seconds lost time on the timer. But it's a little bit more refreshing too. Battle resing back into it on both the 14s, because I'll tell you, we die a lot on them that I've done so far. Group is not griefing each other. Like it's not like, 1400 IO people and, that are like, oh my god, I can't believe you're dying on a 15. Like, what are you doing? Like, everyone knows that, like, the 14's, like, kind of a push for, like, everybody. So we're just kind of all happy to get the weekly vault, and then just to kind of, like, just to see it and practice it. See if we got what it takes. But I'm not taking that. I'm not taking that B-res if it's that spicy left. Because what's going to happen is, I mean, I've been going, I guess I'm going over this for myself. That's my current thought, and it's why I want that trinket so bad. I've, like, dedicated a big part of my time to learning the Castle Nathria raid. I can tank the whole raid easy now. I could probably do the mythic one too. I know those mechanics quite well, and some of the pulls I did were my Lady Enerva kill, heroic. This is spicy. Oh, big rip. I forgot this happens on this run. Yeah. Okay. So I got blown off. I think in my Mist 12 run, the healer got blown off. So in this one, I got blown off. This one's recoverable, though, because the run back is not bad. And if we're on... Earth Elemental comes out. This is where you save Earth Elemental. Earth Elemental the tank. That's not bad. They got a lot of the trash down. And everyone knows it's a pretty chill walk back. So it's really just my death, and we burned Earth Elemental. But that's when I think I talked about this before. This is when you burn Earth Elemental. This is when you burn trees. It's like, oh, the tank's, like, completely gone. And Pride's out. So we actually didn't even lose that much time because of Earth Elemental directly into Spirit Link Totem. Resto Shaman is Mythic plus Pog. I just don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. They saved that, right? Like me blowing off the edge. First of all, that's 100% avoidable. There's no excuses for that. That's my misplay, not watching the green pools. I know why I had the misplay. I was looking at Pride. I was like, how am I going to get over to this Pride? How many are left? And I got blown up. So that's what happened. So wasn't able to split the focus and prioritize the big boom boom. And I got blown off the edge. Earth Elemental saves it. But Just kind of further talking about these higher keys, because I think everyone at this point, especially if you watched my other runs, there's nothing different between this and a 12. There's no difference. Things hurt a little bit more. Not a big deal. DPS needs to be 30% higher, or whatever, 20% higher to do the same timing. It's just math at this point. And the RNG of the maze is actually turning out to like be... This is one of the easiest dungeons. Like I said, I'll go do this on a 15. I'll bang my head against this on a 15 on Tyrannical. Like, I don't care. All right? We just need to bring like 1200 IO DPS, and it's like, whatever. Let's just crush through this thing. I tank it the exact same way. There is nothing tactically different. If I hid details and you hid the key number, 10 to 15, they're all the same for me. There's absolutely no difference. The affixes, of course, change the mob placement strategies. But I need that cheat death for these higher ones, because it's like, if I die, it's almost always a wipe depending on the dungeon. And you saw me die there, and it wasn't one. This is a pretty free dungeon because of the run back. If you have a Night Fae, which we almost always do, if you have a Night Fae, you come back right at that acorn. And I ran back. I could see it. I ran back in like 5 seconds. And also the group, if there wasn't an Earth Elemental, I don't know if they know this, everyone just starts kiting back to to the acorn. It's the same thing into other side. If the tank wipes, you start kiting back to the entrance because there's stairs and they're very slow mobs. These slugs are very slow. Pride's a little sketch. If the tank dies, you start, and I'm gonna release, which is probably the move in a lot of these cases. Like, very easy. Kite back to the acorn. It's recoverable. However, I can think of many places like spires where the run back requires a flight path. That it's like, I'm not taking the resummon. And I think I was saying it before. What happens, and I know this in my mind, I just did 2 14s, I know this. I die, Pride's out, 3 mobs are still there, people are low. It's probably I'm dead, another person's dead, healers burn something. If I accept the res, I'm going to Divine Shield taunt everything, because I have no aggro. So, the potential is that, first of all, I died, someone else died. The potential when I resurrect into that battle res is that I'm going to try to recover it with Divine Shield, so I burn Divine Shield. And then I might still die after. And then we all wipe again. So we turned 1 full wipe into a wipe and a half, like 1.5 wipe of deaths, because I'm going to die again. And now we burned all of our cooldowns, and we didn't get it. So there has to be this call very early on in the pull, and it's kind of like being a raid leader, because I've been experiencing a lot of like raid leaders over voice comms. In the raid, it's like, when do we just focus the boss down? When do we stop focusing on the mechanic? Because that call does eventually get made on almost every raid pool, every kill. At a certain point, you're like, leave the ad, kill the boss. It's got to be the same thing in Mythic Plus. It's better if it's voice comms. It's better if you know the group, because you'll just know it's like, we're not recovering this. You would know that. But in my opinion, it's basically my call as the tank that if I die, I have to immediately get ready to type. I'm either going to say wipe or I'm releasing. Or maybe I'm taking the battle res. But the battle res has never worked out for me so far. It's not worked. Unless everyone's alive and I'm an idiot and I'm the only one dead and everyone else is completely alive. Like what you basically saw me getting blown off. That's probably an okay battle res had that come out, but that's such an easy run back because it's like, okay, everyone else is alive, we're fine. But that's been my experience with battle res, is that if I die, battle resing into a bad situation is still a bad situation, and it turns into a bigger wipe and I have no cooldowns, and then makes the next boss really hard. So I need that cheat death trinket. And if you're just big brain and good experience, good group, you probably don't need the cheat death because you don't die. But it's very unforgiving at these hierarchies. You die a lot. So that's what I want. Mist is a free dungeon. It's the one to do at all affixes, at all everything. And we time it even with some pretty wonky deaths from me. And mostly spent the time talking about hierarchies, why I need the cheat death, and my thoughts on battle resing. So that's a lot of me processing it. If that's helpful for you, that's cool. This group is very happy with themselves. We go on to do Theater of Pain 14, where I died a gore chop, sadly. And basically, I don't want to do 15s without the cheat death. I will see you on the next video.